The year is 2003. DMC2 is a big poo. Kamiya felt betrayed, and Itsuno felt like the dirtiest fucker of them all, having this unwanted spawn now permanently attached to his track record. Out of some hardcore sense of guilt, the Mad Lad wanted to do everything he could to redeem the franchise and by extent, himself, giving the series another go. And by some miracle, Capcom was completely fine with this decision, allowing Itsuno and everyone involved with the previous title to work on creating a proper follow-up to Devil May Run Up on a Nigga, with a fleshed out combat system, a narrative with well-written characters,
for a Japanese game,
campy as fucking screenplay, and the best graphics and cutscenes on the PS2. After a prolonged scene of Dante cleaning his demon foreskin, he sits on his desk and of course, looks cool, when he gets visited by burn victim Johnny Sins, informing him that his brother, Blue Dante, has invited him to his Italian Gothic themed birthday party. Some action porn happens and we find out that Blue Dante is summoned to Straight Tower Pizza in the middle of the city to flex on Albanian niggas. The man could give a fuck less up until his shop gets totaled, driving him into an autistic fit to scale up the tower and guard his brother. Presentation takes a massive fucking up with this game. Every bit of story told in these cutscenes is weeabukino. While being an insufferably snarky Dante in his delivery, Ruben Langdon did an amazing job doing all the stunts and mocap. Carrie Walgren's lady does a bang up job playing the role of a snarky resentful cunt with a strong emotional side. Woman, am I right? And then comes Virgin himself,
played by Dan Southworth,
topping everyone else with quips and one-liners that are the stuff of legend. The MC3 features choreographed action and cinematography that BTFO Snakebeater a minute in. Aside from a few quiet moments of dialogue, each scene is filled with crazy stunts, explosions, and set pieces that keep one-upping the insanity moment to moment. One moment you're surfing on an RPG, then you're running down buildings so fast that you start burning up in the atmosphere. And right after that, you're wrecking mobs of enemies in midair with motorbike ninjutsu. It's like a destruction derby at a fireworks factory that keeps you going just to see what crazy bullshit they're gonna come up with next. But wait! There's more. Shibata and Koda are back from DMC2 with an even heavier sound on the tracks, up in the production value to start featuring vocals. And it's from this point onwards that DMC's soundtracks turn from a love letter to the techno-industrial metal genre to full-on KMFDM tribute albums. All the tracks with the lad on the mic are performed by Sean Shooty HG McPherson, running his own metal band that sounds exactly like what you'd expect from the 2003 underground scene. And instead of doing his best full ensemble impression, Shooty opts to deliver each verse with a breath-heavy baritone voice, expressing a sense of repressed rage, with every line sounding like it's being snarled through his teeth. He really gets to show off his impressive vocal range and bops like Devils Never Cry, delivering the most grating yet empowering bird squawks when reaching the track's high point during the final verse. Aside, lyrics are the dumbest fucking butt metalist pieces of poetry ever put on paper, and I fucking love it, man. I'm also obligated to talk about the Virgil tracks with their great and overpowering orchestral compositions, but I'm not into that nerd shit, so I can't say much. The ambient music still puts me to sleep for all the wrong reasons. It just ain't the same spooky vibe without the otherworldly instrumentation and effects you later use the first time around. The game once again sports a heavily European Gothic look to its environments, this time focusing more on 15th century Italian architecture that, while gorgeous, starts to get stale for me really quick. The atmosphere is still there and still very thick, but fuck me does it feel like I'm colorblind. While DMC1 casts such strong shades of both warm and cold hues across the entire castle, 3 just sticks to a shit palette of grey, brown, black, and white for entire areas. The best we get are some section rooms with moody candle lighting almost warning you that shit ain't right, and I honestly feel more of that shit would make the castle stand out better. Platforming and puzzles made a return, and they're a lot more straightforward and less automated. The real challenge lies in getting all the hidden orbs and secret missions, with designers going out of their way to make them a heavy kick in the dick. And at the end of every 2 to 3 missions or so, you encounter a different boss that provides a good enough noob filter for newcomers. Fear not, for they all turn easier shit on the second go, even on the highest difficulty. Maybe except for him. And we finally fucking goddammit. And now we finally arrived to the meat of this game. The fucking ludicrous amount of additions and refinements to the combat, holy shit. Nearly everything from DMC2 has been carried over and expanded. Damage and enemy AR are back to being properly balanced. The camera and lock-on have been touched up a bit with a snappier switch and a clearer indication of the enemy's health. You can now switch out any pair of guns and devil arms on the fly, creating thousands of practical combos and techniques. More on that later. And last but not least is the ability to parry every attack, allowing you to fuck ass harder than ever if you can get your timing right. The style meter has been completely reworked into a fucking masterpiece of game design, turning it into a virtual edging contest to see how long you can keep it up before blowing your load. This little fucking bar right here is enough to indicate how well you're performing or how much dick you're sucking, as well as how far you can raise it by giving the player immediate feedback when landing different combos. This simple HUD mechanic is such a fucking breakthrough in the genre that it pisses me off that shit like Bayonetta is still shitting the bed with its hideous meter that's confusing to keep track of. Stage ratings are still a big part, and they don't fuck around this time, with individual ratings on your time, orbs collected, style meter, damage taken, and items used, you fucking pleb. With the guns, you once again have ebony and ivory and the shotgun back almost immediately, serving as perfect fodder for combo extensions and staggering. Later on, you get the Artemis, a more compact redesign of the Nightmare Beta that shoots a regular laser when tapped and a stronger shot when charged. And sometime after that, you get your hands on the Spiral, a heavy rifle that's perfect for stunning enemies and one-shotting those annoying flying fucks. 3/4 through the game, you get your hands on the BFG, the Galena Ann. This weapon, while impractical in almost every scenario, can come in handy for crowd control or weaker mobs in a tight spot. Though its slow recovery does make it inconvenient to use when surrounded by faster enemies, so it's best to keep it at the secondary slot as the last resort. Rebellion keeps all the old moves like Million Stab, Stinger, and Helm Splitter, except now these are all different commands with 2 new sword combos depending on your timing. The noob filter drops a pack of triple-ended nunchucks that focus on delivering a flurry of attacks in rapid succession that works perfectly when mixing it up between a second weapon. Angus and Rudra are a pair of elemental swords, one fire, the other ice. While seemingly volatile, my retarded ass doesn't get much use out of it. I find it most effective when charging towards a staggered enemy after a successful parry for a good bum rushing. Nevin is no joke, an electric guitar that's capable of shooting out projectile bats as well as create an AoE attack that's again perfect for crowd control. The handling of the weapon can seem a little bit obtuse, and the long windup for attacks isn't ideal for dealing with most enemies. And finally, we have the objectively best weapon in the whole of Devil May Cry. The Beowulf are essentially a reskin of the Ifrit clubs, except they're now buffed up enough that sticking to regular attacks is versatile instead of just charging up every hit to make a slight dent on enemies. In addition to 2 new combos and a second uppercut, you also get a pair of furry boots that let you kick flip and immediately follow it up with a heavy dropkick as a lethal finisher. And the feedback you get on every hit is beyond satisfying when it connects. Best when going for the up-close action, beating down enemies, parrying, or royal guarding every attack like it's nothing. Oh god, oh fuck! The style mechanic takes every bit of style and fragments it into 6 parts. Trickster is the bitch nigga class, letting you dodge out of any attack with a quick dash, run up on walls, or teleport in front of enemies to close the gap. It's also real good for traversing these boring as fuck empty areas. Gunslinger finally makes guns effective in combat, giving every weapon a secondary fire option alongside charge shots and badass finishers unique to each weapon. Swordmaster style adds an entire new moveset of attacks to each double arm, ranging from midair attacks to elaborate combo strings with the press of a button, making it the best choice for aggressive play and Street Fighter references. The Quicksilver style is the obligatory JoJo reference, allowing you to almost stop time, giving you a small window to hit shit without any consequences. Too bad it takes forever to charge and burns out in 10 seconds. Doppelganger summons a Nega Dante that emulates all your attacks while shredding to your DT. Once again, it's a shitload of fuck since it runs out before you can even land 3 hits. And saving the best for last, we have the biggest dick style of them all. The Royal Guard style is the block button. And while it doesn't seem like much, it actually allows for a more intense level of play when learned to use properly. Holding down the block button before an attack like a fucking dense inept retard will result in the game punishing you with a prolonged stun that opens you up to enemies. Similar to the parry, the game wants you to learn how to block at the exact same frame before an attack hits, which will then result in the enemy getting briefly stunned. The farther off your timing gets, the slower your recoveries become, and eventually making you take damage. Every successful guard works toward charging up your roar release meter that, when pulled off on a full bar, deals enough damage to clear out an insane amount of health off enemies on top of slash damage. It's the essence of easy to pick up, hard to master, cause holy shit if wiping a boss's ass with nothing but guard and release ain't the most euphoric thing. Sword Master, Trickster, and Royal Guard are the way to go. Everything else is just to show off. And installing the Style Switcher mod is almost mandatory for every single playthrough. And before you start whining about how it's cheating, come back after beating Virgil 3 on DMD and try pleading for fair play, motherfucker. Being able to switch all these different styles on the fly shows off the untapped potential this game has. And even without it though, the amount of combinations and techniques you can pull off with weapon slots and styles give the game an almost infinite amount of replay value by experimenting in the Bloody Palace. And that's without mentioning all the zany exploits like air resets, auto parries, and infinite stuff that's straight out of MBC2. DMC3 also provides the best post-game content so far. Heaven and Hell goes one step beyond DMD by providing a fun, testicle tugging difficulty where everything dies in one hit, including you, the player. This at first seems like a cakewalk, with the game slowly warping to a strategy game where you have to plan out who to take down first while taking enemies teleporting and shooting projectiles into account. And you'll fucking die over and over and over again. And honestly, I'd rather have it over DMD's Sword Sponges any day. But wait, there's more! DMC3 SE came out a year later with a playable Blue Dante with a completely original campaign without recycling any assets, as well as a whole new arsenal and moveset with the Yamato, Force Edge, and a revamped Beowulf, having you go from roll guarding to judgment nutting all over everyone in the room. All of it pales in comparison to the turbo mode tucked away in the settings, making everything 13% faster for 50% more styling. Arigato gozaimasu, Itsuno-san. Sugoi! As you could probably deduce from my excited autistic rambling, I like this game a whole lot. It ain't my favorite DMC, but it's up there in terms of video game kino. Besides being a great game, DMC3 was a true evolution of the character action genre and a fateful sequel/redemption of the Devil May Cry series to boot. While only praised by niche action fags these days, it still ended up influencing a generation of game devs still taking cues from the game, refining as well as adapting it into other genres. Schlock dialogue aside, its story is extremely well paced, filled with riveting highs, sets with lows, and enough big wahoo pizza explosions in between to make it a memorable romp. Most importantly, it takes the cake thanks in part to its expansively designed combat that grants a casual and explosive experience for both entry levels and us virgins, with enough customization options and cheeky exploits that give the game an immense and long-lasting sense of depth and replay value.
Oh.